Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. We've got a celebrity extravaganza coming up, but first to Gwen Walls, the wife of Tim Walls. You'll remember her.
Bye-bye, Donald Trump!
She's terrifying. Well, listen to her here order people to take 3 friends with them to the polling booth.
I need you to take yourself and 3 friends to the ballot box and make your voice heard. You have to vote. I'm going to repeat that again. You and 3 of your friends have to make your voices heard by voting.
Okay, I'm just grateful that she stopped turning the page and stopped singing.
We will all stand up and cheer. To the other team we'll never yield, and we won't forget we're here. We will fight for victory.
Weird, just weird. And if you want to know just how weird this couple is on this Columbus Day, let's take a look at what Governor Tim Walls said back in 2020 when far-left activists tore down a statue of Columbus. Let's look at the destruction first. This is how Governor Walls reacted. Not condemnation, not even mild criticism, but he defended the leftist extremists destroying monuments. He said they had legitimate concerns about a genocidal monument.
It was an act of civil disobedience that we need to make sure people feel that there is a proper outlet to address what are legitimate concerns around what they view as a genocidal monument that they have to walk to in their democracy.
You want this character anywhere near the White House? Are you nuts? Now, yesterday we mocked Tim Walls' attempts to play the macho man gun enthusiast. That whole thing was frankly beyond parody, but Kamala's antics are being parodied on Saturday Night Live. Here she is playing Family Feud.
Okay, 100 people surveyed, top 6 answers on the board. Name something that you keep in your glove compartment. Oh, VP Harris.
Steve, look, I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, my mother raised my sister and me, all right?
Yeah.
She worked hard and saved up.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And we had a second mother, too.
Okay. Did that mother have a glove compartment?
A small business owner named Miss Shelton.
Okay, we got that. Something that you keep in your glove compartment.
Oh, a Glock, Steve, a big old Glock.
Now, you know the Democrats are getting desperate when they pull out the celebrity card. Last week, we brought you vision of Bruce Springsteen embarrassing himself with publicly airing his TDS symptoms, Trump Derangement Syndrome symptoms. It was unedifying. And I regret to inform you that Bon Jovi is also similarly afflicted, and even worse, he has written a song about it all. He tweeted that he is voting for Harris and Walls, and this is the aforementioned song. Brace yourself, the cringe is extreme. Let's see what other A-listers are embarrassing themselves in recent days. And we've got Jennifer Garner, actress Jennifer Garner, and she must be a very good actress indeed, because she said this outrageous lie without laughing out loud.
I'm looking at these beautiful faces, these women, and at these strong men. God, is there anything sexier than a man who is like men for Kamala? You are the front line of this battle, for lack of a better word.
Is there anything sexier than men for Kamala? Yes, everything is sexier than dudes for Kamala. Are you kidding me? Now, let's get more daft celebrity endorsements delivered in cringe fashion. Here is Carrie Washington, along with John Legend and his wife, Chrissy Teigen. That's the model who was exposed for sending the most vile trolling comments to teenagers, including telling one to kill herself. Happily, those episodes are well behind her. Now she's producing content like this.
I honestly, genuinely, fully, 100% sincerely believe that this is going to change people's lives.
And what is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer up to these days? Okay, at least she wasn't saying anything unhinged in that clip.
Donald Trump came all the way to Michigan to beat down and insult the people of Detroit. So keep Detroit out of your mouth, Donald Trump. In the words of Aretha, show Detroiters a little respect.
Keep Detroit out of your mouth, Donald Trump. Dear me. Now, this is a masterclass in how to handle the Democrats' propaganda arm, the leftist losing it activists in the media. Here is J.D. Vance on ABC.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs.
Yeah, just a few apartment complexes, nothing to worry about. And here is J.D. Vance with New York Times reporter Lulu Garcia Navaro, who claims that you can't deport all these illegal immigrants because they work in construction and we need more houses than ever. I wonder if she was against abolishing slavery too. J.D. Vance treated her questions with the disdain they deserve.
I don't think that many people who look into this agree with you, but about a third of the construction workforce in this country is Hispanic. Of those, a large proportion are undocumented. So how do you propose to build all the housing necessary that we need in this country by removing all the people who are working in construction?
Well, I think it's a fair question because we know that back in the 1960s when we had very low levels of illegal immigration, Americans didn't buy houses, didn't build houses. But of course they did. And I'm being sarcastic, of course, in service of a point. Again, this is one of the really deranged things that I think illegal immigration does to our society, is it gets us in a mindset of saying we can only build houses with illegal immigrants when we have 7 million, just men, not even women, just men who have completely dropped out of the labor force. People say, well, Americans won't do those jobs. Americans won't do those jobs for below the table wages.
Joining me now is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large Josh Hammer. Josh, let's have a listen to the Harris campaign's latest strategy, and it's out there. Apparently, the Republicans are hiding Donald Trump.
Here's the thing. It makes you wonder. Why does his staff want him to hide away? One must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable?
Oh, yes, one must wonder, Josh. One must wonder. It's such a bizarre line. I don't know if it's going to work with the undecided voters, but it's hard to think of a candidate that's more out there than Donald Trump. He's everywhere. He's on every podcast. He's doing every interview. He's doing press conferences at takeaway shops. Like he's just questioned and talking every day.
Yeah, I believe that this is what psychiatrists call projection. You know, I didn't study psychiatry in law school or in grad school or whatever, but I mean, this is a clear and obvious case of psychiatric or psychological projection, is not. Kamala Harris is the one who only recently started to change her media strategy a little bit. But by the way, don't call it a media blitz because she's just doing left-wing echo chamber interviews. Although albeit this week, she's changing it a little bit. She actually just announced she's doing a sit-down interview with Bret Baier of Fox News. Apparently, the latest scuttlebutt is that she's also considering a potentially 3-hour-long sit-down with Joe Rogan, the very popular Austin, Texas-based podcaster. I can't imagine how bad her internal polling is that she's agreeing to a sit-down interview with Bret Baier of Fox News and potentially 3 hours. God help us if we actually sit through those full 3 hours with Joe Rogan. Kamala Harris is not in good shape. I mean, this has all of the indications of a campaign that is currently going down the toilet. She is losing momentum at the exact worst time possible. All of the polling is shifting Donald Trump's way right now. She peaked a little bit too early. They had that bump after the coup of Joe Biden leading up to the DNC in Chicago. But by the time August turned to September, she had the debate. It went fine, I guess. But by mid to late September at the latest, it was basically over for her. And I look, I don't want to prematurely call it. I'm not saying the election's over, but she had reached her peak. She had reached her peak in polling at this point. Now she's just flailing. So she was in Erie, Pennsylvania. I think that clip we just saw, if I'm not mistaken, was in Erie, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is the #1 battleground state this cycle. Bob Casey, who was the vulnerable senator running for re-election in Pennsylvania, did not even appear with Kamala Harris at that rally in Erie, Pennsylvania, because he knows that she is political poison in that state.
That is not a good sign, and I would be shocked if she does Rogan. And if she does Rogan, you're right, her internal polling must be absolutely circling the drain, because that is dangerous for her, to sit down with someone like him who's not going to be just giving her softball questions. He's going to actually hold her to account. That could be an absolute train wreck. Donald Trump has already, I think, indicated he's going to be doing Rogan, but if she ends up doing it, wow, grab the popcorn. It's going to be a fun one. But she also had a go at Donald Trump for refusing to sit down and talk to 60 Minutes.
His staff won't let him do a 60 Minutes interview. Every president for the last half century has done one, anyone who's running for president.
Now, put to one side the fact that 60 Minutes audience is nowhere near what it used to be. I can think of 2 very good reasons why Donald Trump should, out of principle, not speak to 60 Minutes again. What are your thoughts? I'm interested to see if your reasons are the same as mine.
Rita, here in the U.S., CBS News has recently exposed itself as maybe the most blatantly corrupt of all of the various corporate media networks. And that is saying a lot, what I just said, because there is a lot there. There are a lot of options to choose from. CBS News, I mean, let's just run down the list in quick succession. First, they hosted that vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, where J.D. Vance absolutely clobbered Tim Walz, notwithstanding the fact that the 2 CBS moderators were fact-checking J.D. Vance in real time, notwithstanding the fact that they had given him their exact word that they would not do that before the debate. That's number one. Number two, we had a Maoist struggle session in real time at CBS News when the morning anchor Tony Dokapil started to ask very reasonable, basic questions to left-wing charlatan Ta-Nehisi Coates. He was on to promote his deeply anti-Semitic book, The Message. Tony Dokapil was asking very basic questions. Why didn't you talk about Hezbollah, the Second Intifada? And apparently the bigwigs, the C-suite at CBS News was so upset that their anchor had the temerity, had the chutzpah to ask basic questions to Ta-Nehisi Coates that they had a company-wide struggle session the next day whereby Tony Dokapil, the anchor, actually broke down in tears. I'm so sorry, Ta-Nehisi Coates. And then it came out in the aftermath of that their standards and practice division at CBS News actually, in a closely related point, they instructed all of the anchors and journalists of the network to not refer to Jerusalem as being in Israel. So this has all the signs of a network. And by the way, I forgot to mention the last part. They actually, as we all now know, they actually edited Kamala Harris's own 60 Minutes interview. She gave this word salad of all word salads when it came to U.S.-Israel relations and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
That was one of my 2 reasons, Josh. That, because that was just so deeply dishonest to deceptively edit her answer. And the answer they put wasn't even part of the original answer. It wasn't that they cut it short. They just switched things around to make her look strong and decisive instead of absolutely incoherent and weak, which was what her actual answer indicated. And the second reason was Donald Trump sat down with 60 Minutes last time around, back in 2020, and they claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, that it wasn't real. And they've never apologized for that. And I think that is just another reason why Donald Trump should go tell them to jump. Now, just moving on, today is Columbus Day, but the Democrats call it something else nowadays. Let's have Kamala Harris explain that.
We celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past.
Goodness me, Josh, shameful past, European explorers ushering in a wave of devastation, violence, stealing land, disease, spreading disease. I mean, really, is this how they see America? That's how they see Columbus Day? What do you make of all that?
Rita, one of my oldest friends in the world texted me that clip earlier today, and he said, you have to watch this. And I actually watched it twice because I actually could not believe what I had just seen. I mean, this is right out of like a Babylon Bee headline. This is right out of just a total parody satire skit. It's right out of Saturday Night Live. The fact that the person who is the current vice president of the United States, who is seeking a promotion to the leader of the free world, would get there and to say the most clearly platitudinous lines that a left-wing wokester could ever issue about how all of the Americas were conquered by white colonizers and settlers and this and that. Well, I mean, I have a very basic question, Miss Harris. Why are you running to be leader of the free world if you think that the free world, at least the entire Western Hemisphere portion of it, was inherently founded and settled in sin? That this was all a mistake. I mean, should her parents are immigrants. Her parents came here from Jamaica and India. If this continent, North America and the United States, is so bad, why didn't they just stay in India and Jamaica? Why are you running for office in the first place there if this land was founded in such disgrace and ignominy? I mean, it's just thoroughly contemptible. It's so hypocritical. And you know what? Ultimately, my conclusion when I saw this video was, if Kamala Harris goes down in flames in 3 weeks' time, which I do predict that she will, I think that clips like this are going to have a lot to do with it because she cannot get out of her own left-wing echo chamber, just like that stupid Call Her Your Daddy Whatever podcast, the one where they're talking about slut shaming and all these sexual acts. She can't get out of her own bubble, and that's what you see there on that clip right there as well.
Now, I'll be very interested to see if she says something similar to that now that she's running for president, because she'd said that a couple of years ago. I think it was 2021. But surely she hasn't changed her values dramatically from 2021. She was hardly young and naive. She was vice president, and that's what she thought of the country that she lives in, that her parents emigrated to. Now, to a rather interesting development, Kamala Harris supporters have referred to this book she wrote back in 2009 called Smart on Crime. This is when she was serving as a district attorney. They say this is evidence that she's not soft on crime. She gets it. But it's been revealed that numerous sections from that book appear to have been plagiarized. Chris Rufo, the man who exposed the plagiarism scandal at Harvard, President Claudine Gay has since stepped down. Well, he's published the allegations on X following an investigation by Austrian plagiarism hunter Stefan Weber. The cited passages, I've got to say, Josh, from the book, it's remarkable. Some of them closely resemble or perfectly match wording from other sources, including Wikipedia. Have a look at this example. She's copied the source almost exactly. There's the word additional has been added there. That's about it. How long before the leftist media covered this scandal? Because this is a genuine story, and I think a lot of them are scared to even approach it. Some of them are covering it as far as the Republicans reacting to the story as opposed to the story itself.
So first of all, credit to my friend Chris Rufo, who I've known for years, and he is one of by far the most effective conservative activists that we have here in America. He basically almost single-handedly took down Claudine Gay when she was president of Harvard for her own plagiarism scandals, and he's trying to do it again here with Kamala Harris. So fantastic work by Chris. Look, if there is any justice in the world, this would be a gargantuan story, because the evidence, as we just saw on the screen for all the viewers, is absolutely overwhelming. And, you know, some people say, oh, she was a public figure, she probably just had a ghostwriter. Guess what? I also ghost wrote a book for Senator Ted Cruz in 2020. Ghostwriting is overstating it. We worked very closely on it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who is helping you on it. It matters who actually publishes it under their own line. The buck stops with the person right there. And Kamala Harris is a plagiarizer. Kamala Harris, by the way, just like Joe Biden, who himself subsequently admitted to plagiarizing back when he was in law school, which he did. Kamala Harris has plagiarized large swaths here from no less a source than Wikipedia itself. Look, I remember when I was in high school, and they would literally tell me in research class in high school, do not cite Wikipedia. It is not an authoritative source. This woman wants to be leader of the free world, and she is going ahead and sloppily citing, and in many cases actually misquoting the statistics from Wikipedia there. It is a gargantuan story. It cuts to the very core of the Republican case against Kamala Harris, namely that she is a dim-witted moron who is not fit to be local dog catcher, let alone to be commander-in-chief of the greatest military the world has ever seen. So I think it's a terrible story for her. Your question, of course, is the valid one. The media will do everything they can to sweep this under the rug. I'm not sure it's going to be the dispositive difference in this election, but it should make at least an impact. I think that Donald Trump is already winning in this election, so certainly he's already in better shape because of this.
Josh Hammer, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rita.